As you could probably tell from my introduction, my word is the word metal. Now you probably already know a lot about this word if you've taken a physical science class or any class that taught you something about the earth. There are many definitions for this word, one of which is any category of electropositive elements that usually have a shiny surface, are generally good conductors of heat and electricity, and can be melted or fused, hammered into thin sheets, or drawn into wires. Typical metals form salts with nonmetals, basic oxides with oxygen, and alloys with one another. That's pretty simple. Another definition is an alloy of two or more metallic elements, like copper and iron mixed together. Woo! Another definition is an object made of metal. Pretty obvious there, like a fork. It could also mean basic character, metal, which is spelled METTLE. This word's pretty interesting as it came from French, Old French in the 14th century. And then the French word was spelled METAIL, which came from the Latin word metallium and from the Greek word metallion, which means mine, quarry, ore, or metal. And by the 16th century, this word had also come to mean the stuff one is made of, one's characters. But there was no difference in spelling between the literal and figurative senses of this word until 1700, when the spelling METTLE, originally, which was just a variant of the word metal, came about, and it meant fortitude. So that's pretty interesting. Metal could also be broken stones used for road surfaces or railroad beds. So if you've ever walked the tracks in town, that's what you're seeing whenever you see all the little rocks in between the tracks and around them. It could also mean molten glass, especially when used in glass making. You've probably seen this if you've ever watched a glass maker blow a glass ball or anything like that. It's pretty interesting to watch. It can also mean molten cast iron, or in printing, it's a type of made of metal. Back in Benjamin Franklin's day, they didn't have big printing presses like we do today, and we had to make each little individual word out of little small print pieces, and they were called type, and so this would be made out of metal type. In music, there's also metal, and most likely you probably have heard of it if you've heard of a band named Metallica. There's heavy metal, which is bands like Metallica. There's thrash, which is bands like Megadeth or Exodius or Anthrax. There's symphonic metal, which is softer, and this is bands like Within Temptation and softer stuff that you wouldn't expect to be metal, which is same goes for power metal, which is bands like Anastasia and Edguy, which is very soft and peaceful, and it's more about making you feel good on the inside than getting out all your anger like in heavy metal or death metal or nu metal, which there's hundreds of kinds of metal music. It's also used in astronomy to mean any element that is heavier than hydrogen and helium. So that means the human body is composed just about solely of metals. Well, that's all for today. Thanks for tuning in, and hopefully you learned something about the word metal, and maybe now you're going to go listen to some metal music or go walk the railroad tracks and see some metal for yourself. Anyways, this is Sai Fujiwara signing out after teaching you about a word called metal.